Hi there! Well, today's video is going to be a look at my makeup collection post declutter. Over the last year, my husband and I have really made an effort to go around our house and just purge and declutter, throw away, donate things that we no longer use that are just kind of lying around. We've really tried to make a very conscious effort to buy things more intentionally, to live more purposefully, to declutter our lives, our house, to not be minimalist. We're never going to be minimalist, and we really don't want to. But we do want to have fewer things that we really love rather than a whole bunch of things that we just kind of like. We decided that we wanted to invest more in experiences rather than things. So we've been doing more activities, I guess. We like to bike ride together, go on day adventures and things like that, rather than just buying a lot of things that kind of keep us at home and don't allow us to go out and explore a little bit and have those kinds of experiences. So with that in mind, I kind of just want to say what this video and what my intentions are not versus what they are. So as I said before, this is not minimalism. This is not a no buy. This is not a use up. This isn't a project pan. This isn't any of those things. But what it is a more intentional lifestyle and more purposeful acquisition, I guess you would say. So our goal here is to, again, just have a few things that we really love rather than a whole lot of things that we're just sort of so-so about. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you two different things today. The first one is going to be my main makeup drawer where I keep the things that I use most days, and these are the things that are in sort of heavy rotation for me, like the makeup that I'm wearing today that I wear most days. And then I've got one drawer now that has a couple of backup products. I don't do a lot of that anymore, but I do have a couple of backups. And then I have palettes that I like to keep, blushes, just lipsticks, different things like that. I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to still keep everything that I have. I feel like there's still a couple things I'm sort of on the fence about, so I'm keeping them for now, but I may go ahead and just get rid of those items somewhere down the road, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that once I get into the drawers. I also wanted to mention kind of how I went about this process. So it was probably a little more than a year ago now that I just started realizing that this just really wasn't who I was as a person, to have a whole lot of makeup. I really enjoy makeup. I like wearing it, but just having so much redundancy in my collection, just having so many things that I wasn't going to wear, or I was only going to wear for a very short amount of time, just wasn't what I was comfortable with any longer. It was something that I sort of regretted, and I hate to say regret because that's something I try not to do, because if you're happy where you are, there's no reason to regret decisions that you made, even if you wouldn't make those again. But I felt like this was a really good opportunity for me to sort of feel the pain of having things that I didn't put a lot of thought into, to have to spend that money, to not be able to get that money back, and to have to donate things or trash things that I spent really good money on. I think it was really important for me to feel that pain and experience it and know that I don't want to do that again. So I enjoyed some of those things that I had while I had them, but obviously I didn't like them enough to keep them long term. So I feel like what I have now are things that I really intend to make good use of, and if I get to the point somewhere down the road, even 6 months from now, and I do a reevaluation and I don't like those things, then they're going to go. I don't have a sentimental value on most things I have. I have very, very few things. I think maybe a handful of possessions of mine that I would consider sentimental. So it's not that hard for me to get rid of things other than being wasteful in the money that I've spent. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at my top drawer. I'll show you what I use most often, and then we'll go into the drawer of extra items and backups. Alright, so here we are in my top vanity drawer. These are the items that get used most often that I really want to have close at hand. I should mention that these are divided storage containers from Bed Bath & Beyond. They come in a lot of different sizes, and it's worked out really well for me in this drawer. These two on the left-hand side are singles, and then this is one large divided container here. And I really like these. It's just kind of kept everything sort of compartmentalized for me and organized, and it's easy for me to find everything that I use because I know exactly where it's going to be. So I'm just going to straighten out the shot here a little bit. I'll start on the right-hand side of the drawer. So in this front spot here, I've got some eye products and some cheek products and face products, just a little bit of a mishmash here. So the first thing that I've got is a Bobbi Brown eye palette. I've had this for quite some time. I'm not sure why it previously didn't get a lot of use for me because it is really a very versatile neutral palette. This is the Rich Chocolate palette. It's been discontinued, or it was limited edition. Let me just open this up. I'm going to kind of hide the mirror here a little bit so I don't get flashback in the camera. Here we go. So it's got a lot of really great colors. This is something that I would travel with. You've got a liner shade, just neutral lid shades, transition shade, everything. It's really great. So for me, this is something that I find myself using really often. I like using this as a brow highlight. I will use this as a lid shade. This one, this is always a liner shade for me. And this liner is actually what I'm wearing today. So just something that I was kind of surprised that I had, and it didn't get a lot of love from me because it is so useful. Let me close that up. And then this is my most used palette, I would say for sure. Of course, because I created it myself. This is the large C palette, I believe. And I do have a video when I created this and what I put in it. So a lot of these shadows came from the Laura Mercier Artist Palette for Eyes. That's one of my all-time favorites. So I depotted those. And then I've got a few other miscellaneous. This is Bobbi Brown Slate here. This is Bobbi Brown Blonde. I've got a couple of shades from the Naked Basics palette up here. That's one as well. So just kind of a variety. This is another Laura Mercier shadow. I want to say the color is Cashmere. That's something I use as a transition shade. But as you can see, this palette is very well loved. I get a lot of use out of this, and many of these colors I will eventually replace and put back in here. It's just got so many things that are so versatile for me, and I absolutely love it. And it really has helped to sort of minimize my collection a little bit, being able to take the shadows that I like the most and remove them from the palettes and put them all in one spot here, and then I can get rid of the chunkier palette itself or get rid of colors that I know that I'm definitely not going to use. That was the case with a couple shades from the Naked 2 Basics. I had a couple colors in there I just didn't like, but then there were several that I use quite a bit. I've actually used that palette and repurchased it at least once. So that is there. And then under here, I've just got a little toothbrush. This is from our dentist's office. I like using this to comb my brows. It just seems to do a really good job. So I keep that in here. I also have the IT Cosmetics CC Cream. This is a holy grail product for me. I've repurchased it several times already. This is in the shade Light. It's my everyday. I think it's just an all-around great product. You've got your SPF. It gives me a nice fresh look to my skin. I think it gives me a little bit of dewiness. I like the coverage. I like the natural look of it. And for me, it's kind of like I've stopped searching for a foundation because I have this and I just love it so much. So I've got this and then one other that I will sometimes use when we go out at night when I don't need the SPF. I'm going to show you that I have actually got some things on my vanity top that I wanted to go through with you, but for most days, this is what I'm using. And this is a little bit newer to me. I needed to replace my lid primer, and I bought the Too Faced Shadow Insurance. I'd never used this before, but of course it's been around for a really long time, and I love it. This is actually my favorite lid primer that I've ever used. I would say before this, the NARS was probably a favorite. Initially, the Urban Decay Primer Potion was, and then it just seemed like it stopped working for me after a while. I'm not sure why, but in any case, I love this now. It just goes on invisibly. There's no, no sign that it's there, and it holds my shadows really well. And as a matter of fact, there was a shadow from this palette. This is Laura Mercier Bamboo, which I think has been discontinued, unfortunately. And it always looked a little bit too light on me, so I wouldn't always wear it without putting something like this underneath. And then once I started using the shadow insurance, it really started popping on me, and I love it even more now. So that was kind of a happy accident. And then I've just got a couple pairs of Tweezerman tweezers that I keep in here. And then this is MAC blush in Stay Pretty. This has been a long time favorite of mine. It has been unfortunately discontinued. I just repurchased this on eBay. I know that I'm going to come to the end of this very soon because it is something I use every day, and I really didn't want to be without it. I do honestly think it's probably pretty easily dupable, but while it was still available somewhere, I went ahead and just bought it. And then the other one that I also repurchased on eBay, also from the Pro Longwear line and discontinued, this is Blush All Day. Again, something I've been using for a very long time. This is what I will put all over my cheek, and then I will use this as a pop of color just on the apple of my cheeks. It's just sort of a perfect neutral look that goes with everything. I know when I put this on, it's not really going to matter what eye look I have or what lip look I have. This is just going to work. And then another one that I use quite often, this is Chanel Rose Petale, I believe it's pronounced. So this is a classic, been around for a very long time. It leans a little bit more, I would say it has a little bit of a coral lean to it, so it's not quite as versatile, but it's still something that I do find myself wanting to use often, so I keep it up here. And then I'm going to move back here to my lip products. These are things that I rotate through pretty regularly. The first one here on the end is MAC Cosmo. This has probably become more of a nighttime shade for me, not something that I would necessarily wear during the day anymore, but it does give a nice shade, a nice pop of color to my lips at nighttime. I think it's just a little bit bolder of a look for me, and I have repurchased this. I really love it. This is an old favorite. This is Bobbi Brown Blondie Pink. This has also been a repurchase for me, so this is the second one that I've had. This is a really great color. I tend to wear it a little bit more in the fall and winter. It's a little heavier than I would like for the spring and summer, but not that there's any rule about that, but that's just kind of what I do. This is Urban Decay Naked. This is the Vice version of Naked, and then I also have the older, which is the Revolution lipsticks, I believe. The Vice, when they changed this to me, became a little bit cooler. The original was my absolute favorite, so I did repurchase it, but again, I went back to good old eBay and found an original. It's very fresh. I don't know how old it is, but I was really surprised that it's still a perfectly good product, and I don't think it's going to be around much longer, kind of like the blush or the MAC blushes here, excuse me. So I went ahead and grabbed it while I could, but I use both of them. I just prefer the older version. This is a very old lipstick, but because I spent so much on it, I am determined to use every bit of it, and it has not gone bad, believe it or not. So this is Tom Ford Pink Dusk. I like this a lot, but it is a little bit light. Sometimes I think that it works better when I've got a heavier eye. So even though it's a lighter shade, I think when I'm going out at night, if I've got a bolder look on my eyes, this is a more appropriate to go with that. But it's just something I love, and I just don't want to get rid of it, even though it's not an all the time lipstick for me. And then I also have just Burt's Bees on a day when I've got a really minimal look, but I want to give a little bit of life to my lips. This is Pink Blossom. It just gives a really nice, natural little pink flush to the lips. And then down here, this is my newest purchase. This is something that I was surprised at how much I really love this. This is the new L'Oreal Color Shine, I believe. This is number, I was going to say 806 because I had it upside down, but this is 908 in Sparkling Rose. Very natural, pretty pink color. They have so many beautiful shades from this line. I'm trying to not purchase a lot of things these days, but it was very difficult because this is such a quality lipstick. I posted this on Instagram, and I do really believe that this is just as good a quality as YSL Rouge Volupte or the Dior Addict lipsticks that I have. This is very, very impressive, and I love it. And I've been wearing this a lot lately. This is what I'm wearing in today's video. And then back here, I just have a little pot of Aquifer. I've actually found sort of a replacement product for this. This is always great to have on hand when you've got a really dry area. And I use it mostly on the tip of my nose around my mouth where I get really dry. But I did find that this was causing me to break out. It was creating pimples in that area. So I found something I like better that I'll show you a little bit later. But this is still something I keep on hand for once in a while. And then in this section here, I'm just going to move the camera a tiny bit. I've got mascaras and my eyelash curler. So this is a mascara that I've repurchased so many times I don't even know. This is the Maybelline Colossal Volume Express. I can't read this, but I know that this is not the Glam Black. I want to say it's Classic Black. This is the waterproof formula. For my fine, wimpy lashes, this is the best mascara that I've used. I absolutely love it. The number of times I repurchased it speaks to that, but it is wonderful. And recently I was going to repurchase this again, and I just, before I came to the end of it, wanted to try something else that I saw recommended online, and this is the Maybelline Mega Plush Volume Express. I just think Maybelline does such fantastic mascaras. So this is also a waterproof formula, and I think as far as formulas go, I think I actually like it better than the Colossal Volume, which really surprised me. But I will say that I don't like the brush as much in this one. And the only reason is because not the brush itself, but I'm going to try to show you this. It's got this little bend here in the middle, so it makes the brush really bendy, flexible, pushy. But to me, that makes it very difficult to get to the base of your lashes and really get it in there and create a lot of thickness. So I don't know, but the formula is so awesome, and it does such a good job at lengthening and keeping my lashes lifted because it's very light, that I'm sort of willing to overlook that. If there was a way to put this brush in this formula, I think that would be the most perfect mascara on earth for me. So I don't know, it's really a toss-up for me between those two, and I'm doing everything I can to make this Mega Plush work. Okay, moving into this section here, I've got just a few miscellaneous eye products. So the first couple things I will pull out here, this was a mistake on my part because I was using one of these and I had a backup, and for some reason I accidentally started using my backup, and so now they're both being used, and I don't know which one's older, but I'm just sort of using them alternately. This is the Kat Von D Tattoo Liner in Mad Max Brown. This is the darkest brown that I've found without being black. I think black is just too harsh for me, and I really have always liked sort of an espresso black, and this is a really nice fine tip. I love it. I love the way that it goes on, and it's never dry. I've had these for a really long time, and they just work really well consistently. And then I have a Anastasia Beverly Hills Clear Brow Gel. I really do like this. My brows are just so hard to work with to begin with, and there's not a lot there. So once I get them in place and have them where I want them, I do like to set them with some brow gel, just because I know I'm going to touch my face throughout the day or something and kind of mess them up. So I always like to have that. This is also Anastasia. This is the Brow Definer in Taupe. I've kind of gone back between the Brow Wiz and this, but this is really my preference. I think it just covers a lot more area in a shorter amount of time. So for every day, this is my preference, and I've repurchased this also so many times. And then this here is just a little eyeliner that I use to back my lashes. This is from L'Oreal, and I've never quite known how to pronounce this, but I think it's Silkasame. I'm going to just stumble all over that, but just a very basic black liner, but this transfers so well. So to me, it's perfect for doing that upper waterline. It goes on, it sticks, it stays throughout the day, and I found it to be superior to any of the more expensive brands that I've had. I had a Bobbi Brown one that I threw out, didn't work, and then I had gotten a sample of, I think, It Cosmetics, and I didn't like that one either. So this one is something that I would buy again, if it's even still around. I really don't have any idea. I haven't bought it in so long. This is the Laura Mercier Caviar Stick Matte in Au Naturel. This is something that I have really come to love, and I use this more often than not. When I want a really quick look, I just want to give my eyelids a little bit of color. I don't want to use brushes, and I just want to do this, mascara, be out the door. This is such an awesome shadow stick. I only have a little bit left here. This actually broke off, so I have purchased a backup of this. I would really recommend this. It blends so easily. If you want something that's a really quick look that just gives you a very natural, tiny bit of color to your lids on a day that you don't want a heavy makeup look, this product is amazing. I love it so much. I did look at some of the other shades in this line, and I really didn't like any of them, but this one is perfect. I'm not going to go through all of my brushes here. Let me just pan my camera a tiny bit this way. I'm not going to go through all these because that would be utterly boring, but this is just the brushes that I keep close at hand because I use them every single day. So yeah, these are just a combination of powder brushes, face brushes, eye brushes, things like that. There's nothing really too special about any of these. They are in desperate need of washing, I will say that. And I think I'm actually going to move my camera over here so that I can show you what's in this section a little bit better. So the first thing here at the back are just a couple of packages of blotting sheets. I've had these for a really long time. I don't use them all that often, so these 2 packages have lasted me forever, but I keep them here for touch-ups toward the middle of the day. I've got the Laura Mercier under eye powder here. This is the Secret Brightening Powder. I don't use this a lot, but it is something that I like, so I do want to keep it and not get rid of it because when I do need it, I think it comes in really handy, particularly just the corners of the eyes, just to brighten that up a little bit, or at the end of the day if we're going back out and I just want to touch up my makeup a little bit and my concealer maybe isn't doing as good of a job anymore. I just like to touch up with this. This is Too Faced Primed and Poreless. I use this exclusively on my T-zone, particularly when I'm filming. If I just want to have a little bit less shininess, I'll just put this next to my nose, you know, my cheeks, and well, you know where the T-zone is. So I just use it there. I don't know that I would necessarily repurchase it. It's nice, but I don't think it's an absolute necessity. I'm using it because I have it, but once it's gone, that might be the end of that for me. And then this is something that I have repurchased and would repurchase again. This is my Hourglass powder. This is in Dim Light. I use this every day. I think that for me, I don't really like to use bronzer, but just to warm up my skin tone a little bit, this is absolutely perfect. I feel like it just brings a little bit of life to my skin, makes me look like I have a little bit more of a healthy glow during the day, and it's just very subtle and nice, so I really like it. This Makeup Forever I purchased. I was going to use this as like a T-zone powder, but ultimately it was just a little bit too yellow for me, but it turns out it is fantastic for setting under eye concealer, and because it does have a little bit of that yellow tone to it, it really brightens up dark circles under the eyes, and it also helps me clean up the edges of my eyeshadow look out to the edges of my eyes. So I really love it for that. It's got a nice amount of coverage and it's very finely milled. So this is something that I would repurchase. I really like it. I think that I probably won't need to for many years to come because I use it in such a small area, but I would definitely recommend it. And I had to put a sticker over this because the only part that rubbed off on the label was the shade that it was. So before I couldn't see it anymore, I just made a label. So that is shade 202. This is MAC Studio Finish Concealer. I cannot remember if this is still available, but I think if it's not, there's something that's very close. This is an NW20. This is my everyday face concealer. I usually use it with a brush so that I can just use a very small amount of it. I use this to cover up pimples or just any really obvious blemish on the skin, and this adheres really well and lasts throughout the day. And then I've got this Laura Mercier, I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. This is the Eye Basics in Linen. I do like this. This creates a really great base for eyeshadow looks. It does a really good job at sort of creating this very neutral canvas. But what I found is that when I'm doing a very light makeup look, like with the Laura Mercier Matte Caviar Stick, it was almost a little bit too obvious. So this definitely has a purpose, but it's not something that I use as often as I used to now that I'm wearing less makeup, if that makes any sense. I've also got a Bobbi Brown corrector. This is in light bisque. This is almost gone. I don't know. I like it enough to repurchase it, but I don't know that it's an absolute necessity. I've got so many other things here that do eye brightening with the Secret Brightening Powder and with the Makeup Forever powder. So I'm probably going to say that I won't repurchase it, but I do enjoy it and I will finish it. This is new to me. Let me start here actually. So this is MAC concealer. This is the MAC Matchmaster. This has been discontinued, and I had this tiny little, oops, well, where is it? This tiny little nub of it left, and so I was desperately trying to find something to replace it before I was out. And I had seen so many people talk over the years about the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind. So I thought I would give it a try, and I am so impressed. This is the most beautiful natural concealer. I absolutely fell in love with it. I think some days it's not quite enough for the darkest part of the circles under my eyes, but most days it's just enough. So if I need a little extra help, I can always go to one of my powders or the corrector, but more often than not, this is everything that I need. And this is in light pale. I will say it's just a touch lighter in shade than what I'm used to, but not enough to make a difference. And I'm also surprised at how little product you need to cover. And it just seems to look natural even when I put a couple layers on. So I'm really in love with that. And then this is something I've had for a very long time, and this is fantastic, but I definitely won't repurchase it due to cost. This is Clé de Peau concealer. I've got a little bit left here. It does a very good job. It is a drier formula, so it's not great for under the eyes, but for any facial blemishes, it works very well. I think that I would probably go for the MAC again. This is probably the best, but again, due to price, I think the MAC is very sufficient, so I would go ahead and get that. And then down here at the end, I've just got some white strips. This is where I keep memory cards for filming. I've got this little guy. I don't know what these are called, but I call it a jumpy because I jump information from the cards to my computer. I had a problem with my USB before, so I use this. Not as much of a problem these days, but... And then here I've got my eye pencil sharpener. It's so messy, so I just like to keep it in this little bag here at the end so it doesn't mess up my drawer. And that is it. So that's everything in this drawer. Let's take a look at a few things I've got on my vanity top, and then we will move into storage. Okay, so this is a look at a few products that I have on the top of my vanity. I just wanted to go through these with you really quickly too, because I do have them out here because I use all of this so often. So starting here at the back, and I will mention really quickly, this is something that I picked up from Home Goods more than a year ago. Starting at the back here, I have the CeraVe PM. I am no longer using this as my facial moisturizer, just when I have a very dry area. I discovered that this was causing me to break out after not using it for a while, eliminating it from my routine. I didn't realize this was the source of my problem. So as much as I used to like it, I am not using that any longer. And instead I am using this Aveeno Sheer Hydration. It surprised me as much as anyone that this was something that I would really enjoy for my face, but out of necessity I started using it and I absolutely love it. So and it's a really good value. I mean, there's 12 ounces for probably $7 or $8, something like that. So I'm really happy with it, and it does a great job on nights that I'm not using a treatment. So I keep that right over there. I'm sorry I keep bumping into this camera. I'm just in a really small space here. And here at the back, I have my Retin-A. I use the 0.1%. I've been at that strength for quite a while, several years now. So I keep that there. And then I also have the Revitalash Advanced. I'm not even holding things in frame here. Here's a Revitalash Advanced. This has done more for my lashes than I could have imagined when I purchased it. It's really given them a lot of length and volume, so I love that. I will repurchase it. Here at the back I have the Murad City Skin Age Defense SPF. I will not repurchase this. I thought that it would have a lot of skincare properties to it, which is why I spent so much purchasing this last summer, and I haven't noticed any change in the condition of my skin. I think it's a nice SPF. It does work when I go out for a really long bike ride. I don't get sunburn, but there are much less expensive products that will work just as well, and so I don't think it's necessary. This is newer to me. This is the Weleda Skin Food. I am so thrilled with this product. So as I mentioned before, I've got a lot of dryness and flaking on the end of my nose due to allergies. I've always got sneezing and runny nose, and so it's just an area that always gets super dry on me, and the aquifer was breaking me out. I saw online that people were using this to apply to their face without any problem. I was very skeptical, and I am so surprised. This is fantastic. It does have quite a strong orange citrus fragrance to it. Now it's not something I noticed, but it is definitely there. It's definitely very obvious, so if that's something that would bother you, just know that going into it. But this is amazing, and I purchased it on Amazon. Here in the front, I've got the Guerlain Meteorites Light Reflecting Primer. I am using every bit of this that I can. I've got a tiny bit down here in the bottom. I love this. It's expensive. I think it's absolutely worth it. I mix 1 pump of this in with my Aveeno moisturizer, put this on my skin, and I think it gives it a really nice healthy glow. This is perfect for days when I don't want to wear any foundation, but I just want my skin to be perked up just a little bit and give it a little bit more of a healthy appearance. So for me, it is something that I would repurchase. I'm also considering the Becca Backlight Primer. It's got a better price point, and it does have good reviews also, so I don't know. I'm trying to decide between the two, but I'm going to have to make a decision very soon because I've got very little product left. These are just my allergy eye drops. I've got the Mario Badescu Drying Lotion. This is almost gone, so I'm waiting for Ulta's 20% off, and I will repurchase it. I've bought this many times. I think this is the best product that I have used for getting a pimple under control. The minute that you know that it's coming, if you can apply this, it just really gets rid of it. This is the Nivea Moisture Lip Care. Sometimes this is hard to find for me. I do see it at CVS and Target, but my husband, this is his Holy Grail lip balm, and now he's got me using it as well. I would just word of caution, not keep this in your pocket. It's kind of soft, has a little bit of a soft formula. This is all I've got left on this tube. But it is really great. I love that it doesn't have any fragrance to it, and I will usually apply this every day when I'm doing my makeup, just so I have just sort of a base layer of moisture on my skin. But I've come to really, really love that. This is where I just keep my extensive jewelry collection. 2 pairs of these pearl earrings that I just wear all the time because I'm not a big jewelry person. And then I've got my one of my nighttime treatments. This is Philosophy Renewed Hope in a Jar. This is something that I've repurchased and would again. I really love it. I think it does a good job at kind of keeping my skin exfoliated. It does dry it out a little bit in the winter time, but I really like this product. And then this is the Bobbi Brown Hydrating Eye Cream. I don't have a lot of this left, and I'm kind of debating whether or not I'll repurchase it. I really love it, but again, it's something kind of expensive, and I have to believe that there's something that would probably work just as well at a better price. But I'm a little bit torn because I like this so much because it doesn't cause any of the milia under my eyes, no irritation, and it just does such a wonderful job. So for me, it might be worthwhile to just go ahead and get what I know that I like. Moving back here, I've got my eye makeup remover. This is the Clinique Take the Day Off. I'm not partial to this, although I do think it works really well. So if I've got an Ulta coupon, I will splurge and get it. But most often, I just use the Neutrogena oil-free eye makeup remover. I think this does a really good job as well. It takes a little bit longer than the Clinique or the Lancome, which is my favorite, but not a necessity to splurge on most days. Back here I have the Kat Von D Lock-It Foundation. This is in shade Light. This does a great job for what it's supposed to do. This is a very full coverage matte foundation, but I really just don't find it necessary for me anymore, so this is probably something I'm going to get rid of. I've just had a hard time kind of letting go of it because I still think I might need it at some point. So I've just chosen to not make a decision about that. And then I also have the Guerlain Lingerie de Peau. This is a beautiful foundation. I've loved it for a very long time. I just don't find myself using it quite as often. And now the shade seems lighter to me. And so I don't know if my skin tone's changed as I've gotten older, but it just no longer is a good match for me, so I don't use it very often. And then finally, I have the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. This is something that I do really love. This is the one that I mentioned I will wear at night if we're going out in the evening. Maybe I haven't worn makeup during the day, and so I'm just first applying something and I don't need SPF. I really, really do like this. This is in shade 4.5. I would repurchase it, but this little size has lasted me a very long time since I'm not using it all that often. And then I've just got some cotton products, Q-tips, my Aveeno, and that's pretty much it for the top of the bag. Okay, so finally we are here at the drawer that I have in the little storage cabinet that you see behind me. This is another IKEA piece that I've had for quite a while now, and this is where I keep just extra products I don't use as often, but that I definitely don't want to get rid of. They are things that I still really like, but they're just not my everyday stuff, but I really don't want to be without them either. So this is pretty well edited, but there are still a couple of things that I'm thinking the longer this goes on that maybe I could go ahead and get rid of them. So I'm going to start over here. This is where I keep blush. So I've got in the front here, it's going to be hard for you to see, but I've got this little tiny one from NARS. This is Deloy. I'm not really sure. I got this, I don't even know, birthday gift, something. I didn't pay for it, but somehow I got this from Sephora, and I do like it. I think it's a really great shade, but not for every day. And then I also have MAC. This is Plum Foolery. I have Tarte Partey. This was from Ulta. This is a really great shade. I do sometimes keep this in my top vanity drawer, but just not all the time. This is one of those that I'm thinking about possibly getting rid of, Benefit Rockateur. I just don't find myself wanting to use this very often, but I do think it's a really nice blush. I think I just need to think about it more often, but if I have to remind myself, then maybe it's not something that I like all that much. So that is something that might eventually go. And then this is NARS Amour. This is a great all-purpose shade. I also kind of keep this in my top drawer sometimes, but it's not something I would want to get rid of. I do think that it has quite a bit of usefulness. And then this is really gross. This is NARS Orgasm. It's, you know, one of those cult favorites. Everybody probably has this in their stash somewhere. This is just, ugh, the packaging is so gross. But this is a great one. I use this a lot more in the summertime, so I don't want to be rid of that, but ugh, this packaging is awful. This is NARS Luminous Flush. At one time, I used this almost daily. It was something I found myself reaching for quite often, and then it seemed to sort of change on my skin. It just started looking almost clownish and really bright, and I'm not really sure why that is because it wasn't terribly old when that started happening. So I don't know whether to get rid of this or not, because at one time it was so great, but if it's just not going to work for me anymore, then it might be something that I get rid of or pass on to someone else, but I'm keeping it until I kind of figure that out for sure. Then at the back here I have a few eyeshadow products. So the first thing that I have here is an older Dior palette. This is Rosy Tan. I know for a while these were discontinued, and I think that they may have brought some back or they renamed them and have new versions, but this is something that I do like. It's an option for travel. It's got some great colors, as you can see here, some neutrals and things, so I don't mind keeping that just in case. Sorry about my hands here too. I've got a little bit of eczema going on and I get really itchy at the back of my hands. So this is Chanel Raffinement. I'm not sure if this one's still available. I want to say that they reformulated all these as well. I don't use this one quite as often, but it is something that I like to have. I think all of these shades are really great. They just have a little bit more shimmer than I want these days, but I do every once in a while decide to use that. And then I've got this palette here. These are just a few MAC singles that I put in here. I think this is Mystery, which is sort of a cool brown. I think maybe this is Typographic, or yeah, I think. I'm not sure about that. This is Satin Taupe, and this is Carbon Black. So those are kind of good shades to have, but as you can see, these three I really haven't used very much, but don't want to get rid of. I've got a single from NARS here. Honestly, do not remember what this was, but it is a really pretty single shade look shadow, and it wouldn't fit in my Z palette. I ran out of room, so I've kind of kept it here in this little bag, and this is something that I think is kind of silly to keep like this, but I haven't been able to decide to let it go. And then this is a backup that I have of Bobbi Brown Slate, and this is a perfect example why I sort of stopped buying backups for things like this, because I still haven't really used this. I think I've used it a couple of times, probably on accident, because I still have one that I'm using, but this is still available, and this is sort of sitting here unnecessarily. Here at the back I have Tartelette In Bloom palette. This is a great one. I do really like it, so this is not something that I wanted to get rid of, and I do keep it here for use once in a while. I've got a package of just Pond's makeup remover wipes and back up there, and then I've got a few palettes here in the middle. So I'm not going to open all these because I have these huge mirrors, so I don't want to cover up, but this is the, I believe this is the original Lorac Pro palette, and this has a lot of, I guess I can open up this one. This has got so many great colors. This is not something that I would want to get rid of, because it's just, again, great for travel, really thin, really light, and this is, I think, a great palette that completes other looks. So if you've got just a few shadows here and there and you need some way to bring them together, or add a little bit of a pop of color, I think this palette is really special for that, and I think the formula is really good as well. This is a palette that I really loved, and at one time I was using it so often, and I don't use it as much anymore, but I still really want to keep it because there's colors in here that I think are fantastic. So this is the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons, and I really wanted to keep this one. One that I am sort of on the fence about, which is a very old favorite, is the Urban Decay Original Naked palette. Again, something that I'm really sort of on the fence about, because I like Virgin, I like Naked, I like Buck, but pretty much everything else I could do without. So what I'm actually thinking about doing is getting another Z palette and depotting some of these, and maybe doing that with some of these other palettes as well, and then kind of keeping everything condensed together and not taking up so much room in here, and then eliminating the things that I know that I'm not going to use, like Half Baked or Smog. So I think this at the time was a really great palette, but now I just don't find it as useful as I once did. And then finally, for palettes, I've got the Laura Mercier Artist palette. Most of these ended up in my Z palette, as you can see, but these purple shades I really not worn a lot, but I think they're really pretty, and for some reason this is something that I just want to keep as an option. I just don't want to get rid of it. I think this is probably silly, but I just keep thinking someday I'm really going to want to wear these purple shadows, so I'm going to hold on to it. And I think that these two shades here are nice highlight shades. I think for sure highlight shades are probably something I will never need to repurchase, because between all of these palettes I've got plenty that I can continue to depot out of here and put into Z palettes, so I should never need to purchase those again. And then here I have something that, this was so silly. I stopped using this for a while because I didn't want to be rid of it. I like it so much I didn't want to use it, which now I realize is just really silly. So this is an old Chanel Bronze Rose Soleil Tan de Chanel. I blend all of these colors together. I think it's a perfect cheek color. And then you've got the different stripes of bronzer there. But this was such a unique palette for me, especially at the time, that I did not want to let go of it, but now I'm trying to use it more often. This is the Hourglass powder in Radiant Light. This is a little bit darker than my Everyday Dim Light, so for me this is something that I would kind of use as a bronzer, more so in the summertime when I want to warm up my skin a little bit. But this is something I want to keep. This is something that's probably unnecessary. It's discontinued, so it's not available, and I've just decided it's not really hurting anything, but this is an old Urban Decay Naked Light pressed powder, and it's a really nice formula. I'm just finding that the Hourglass is pretty much my go-to for every day. I'm kind of just keeping this for when the Too Faced is gone, and maybe I'll use this for my T-zone, so I just don't want to get rid of it just to repurchase something else. More powders that I definitely don't need. So this is the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Light Plus. Nothing wrong with it. It's a good powder, but this was one that I purchased to keep, I think, in my purse, and I just really don't do that anymore. I have a much smaller purse, and I just don't do a lot of touch-ups while I'm out. And then I have one loose powder here. This is also discontinued. This is the Urban Decay Naked Skin Ultra Definition Loose Finishing Powder in Naked Light. I like it because, well, I think it's a fantastic powder. I'm not sure why they got rid of it, but I just keep it because it's one of the only loose powders that I have for all over my face, and this is sort of one of those maybe I'll need it kind of thing, so I keep it to avoid repurchasing something unnecessarily. And then finally I have the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Palette here. This is just really good for the highlighting shade that I have in here, but I've already used up the dim light shade, so I don't reach for this quite as often, but I just keep it for that highlight shade. And then here at the back, I've just got some extra facial cottons. I keep these stuffed in here because it keeps these other things from sliding around. And then in the back here are the only backups that I have these days. So I've got another Weleda Skin Food, and the only reason that I have this in backup when the other one is so new is because when I added this to my Amazon cart, I accidentally added two. So both of them came, but I decided that I liked it so much that there was no point in returning it, and I would just use it eventually. So I do have that here in backup. Taught me a lesson to pay attention to that from now on. And then I also have the Laura Mercier Caviar Stick. I wasn't sure when my other one broke if it was going to be usable any longer, so I went ahead and purchased another one, but I've been able to go ahead and keep using it, so I think I'll be able to finish it. But I'll have this one here when it's gone. I've got a little container here of the Dry Bar Bay Breeze Hydrating Shots. This was in a 4-pack. I've got one in my shower now, and then this will be my last replacement. I love this as a deep conditioner periodically. I think it does a fantastic job on my really fine, thin hair. It doesn't weigh it down. So this is something I do try to remember to do to keep my hair healthy from time to time. And then this is the last backup that I have. This is the MAC Blush in Blush All Day. This is the one that I bought on eBay. And then the Stay Pretty I actually have coming. I haven't received that yet, but I know that this is a long-term love for me, a blush that I always want to have. It's so neutral and so great, so I am happy to have that in backup. And then I'm going to go through these lip products really quickly because this video is going to be so ultra long. But this is something I've really struggled with because I really like having variety in these colors, but I know that most of these things are just sort of languishing in here and sort of unnecessary, so I'm open to getting rid of more things, but for now they're kind of just not hurting anything sitting in here. So really quickly, this is the YSL Rouge Volupte. Can't remember what color this is. I don't think it's the numbers that we're seeing here at the end, but this is sort of a bright coral pink. This is something I would wear more in the summertime, but I think these are great. But I do think the new L'Oreal is just as nice. I've got Chanel Confidence. I have Milani Naturally Chic. This is MAC Modesty, MAC Viva Glam 5, MAC Fanfare. This is another MAC Cosmo. This is Chanel Aventure. I think these two Chanel ones were limited edition. I've got a Bobbi Brown lip gloss here. This one is Urban Decay, or excuse me, Bare Minerals, not Urban Decay. I've got a Chanel Glossomer. This is my favorite one. This gives such a pretty pink shine to the lips. This was limited edition, but I think they've brought it back and renamed it. This one was, I want to say it was called Happy. This just says number 186, but I really love this one. I would not get rid of that. This is an older one. I can't remember the name of it, but this, oh, I think it was Sundress, but that's been discontinued. I think they've changed all of their glossomers. And this one was Wild Rose. This is a really pretty classic color. I like that one a lot. Lip glosses are just a little bit more finicky as far as keeping them long term, so I may have to part with them if I don't hurry up and finish these. Here in the middle, these are Urban Decay. This is Rush. This is Fiend. I've got a smaller size of the same Bobbi Brown shimmer lip gloss here. These are in Bare Sparkle. This was, I think, a free gift, so this was one I'll pop in my purse if I want to. And I can't get that back down in there, so I'll set that here. This is Dior Addict. This is in True, 722 True. I think this is such a great color. Something I tend to wear more in the fall and winter, but I really love the shade of this. I think this is a great lip product, and I really like the formula of the Dior Addict. Then I've got, this is one of those silly things I might still get rid of. This is the Laura Mercier Caviar Stick in Amethyst. I don't think it looks very good on me, but so many people love it, so I'm thinking that maybe I just haven't figured out the right way to wear it, so I don't want to get rid of it, but I'm going to try it another time, and if it just doesn't work, then I'm going to have to just let it go. And then these are two NARS lip pencils. One is Rakujen, and actually I think they both are. I'm not sure why I have two of these, but it is a good neutral color. They're not my favorite formula, so it's something I could probably easily let go of, but for now I'm not making that decision. And then finally, I think this is the last thing. This is Bobbi Brown Sand Wash Pink. This is a pretty classic pink color. I like the more sort of satiny matte finish of these. This is her original lip color formula, and I really like this shade, and it is something I will wear periodically. So I'm just keeping that one in there as well. So that's it. So that is a look at how I've edited down and sort of curated my makeup collection. I hope it was helpful to you. I do have one tip for you if this is something that you're thinking about doing, and this is sort of a way that I eased into it at first. I took all of the items that I was not really sure about, I wasn't ready to get rid of, but I knew probably weren't going to get a lot of future use, and I put them in a little box. And I just set them aside, put them on a shelf, and said to myself, if I don't think about these things over the next few months, if I'm not missing them, if I'm not wondering where they are, then it's okay to go ahead and get rid of them because they were not that important to me to begin with. And I put a lot of things in that box, and turns out I didn't miss any of them, so they went away. I went ahead and got rid of those things, and that kind of made the transition a little bit easier for me. It wasn't quite so sudden, and then I knew it wasn't an impulsive decision that led me to get rid of things that I might ultimately end up buying again, which would sort of defeat the purpose, or that I would miss and sort of regret. So that is it. I hope that you found the video helpful. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.